Alright, here we are, man. It's video number 6. This is kind of what we'll call the first look at PHP and JavaScript. So we did HTML, which kind of shows you the structure of a website. We did CSS, which shows how the website is kind of styled and laid out, like to match up with the HTML. And PHP and JavaScript are two programming languages that they actually do things. Like when you learn C++, or maybe you've learned some JavaScript, MATLAB, any of this, there's functions that actually carry out work. Oftentimes they're linking up with databases with information, and things are actually often moving around on the screen. There's like activity happening. Now I'm not going to get into actually like how to write PHP and JavaScript code. If you're looking for that stuff, go to codeacademy.com and go here and go through the steps. They're a good site. So like I did, I went through the PHP one and the CSS, PHP and JavaScript at some point. So those are good to go through if you actually want to learn how to write code. Really what I want to show you here is like how it fits into the website, where you might see it, the differences between the two, that kind of thing. So let's first start with, we'll start off with PHP. Okay, so PHP, the big difference between these two is that PHP is code that runs on the server but does not run in your browser, whereas JavaScript can actually run inside of your browser. So the significance of that is that, let's talk about WordPress, for example. I've got this, I'll pull up a WordPress site here. So this is a WordPress site I'm working on for a guy. It's coming along. It's not done yet, but it's moving along. And so WordPress uses PHP. So what that means is that there's a database with a bunch of information. And then you have an HTML that gets outputted into your browser, right? So a PHP file, which I'll open one up right here. So this is a PHP file, which will contain HTML. And when it runs on the website, the PHP file runs and it spits out an HTML file that actually is what the visitor to the website sees. So I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but we're going to go through this as kind of a basic example. So the very first thing that happens on this website is there's some PHP code at the very top. So this bracket question mark PHP is how you start, and then question mark bracket is how you end a line of PHP. So then you notice it says get header. So what exactly is happening when you get the header? Well, if we look at the source code for this page, at the very beginning, it's loading in all of this stuff from the database and into the header. Like, I think that all of this stuff here is the header. So notice it says like end head. So like all this gets pulled out of a database with that one line of code that you see here. So that's convenient, right? You don't want to have to repeat that every single time on your website. So you just put it in one place. And then you get this HTML, which says like main content, container. Let's see if we can find this exact place. So I'm going to search that code for this little line here. Oh, it's even further down. So man, so that means that all of this is the header. Oh man, yeah, because okay, all I showed you was the head, which is the hidden stuff. The header actually includes all of this stuff too, like these menu items, the logo, all of this stuff. So like all that list item. So all that stuff gets pulled in just using that one line of code, and then we start getting into the rest of this. So you see a bunch of HTML here. Div, 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 div. These are HTML comments. Div, there's some links, divs, divs, and then all of a sudden, boom, we get more PHP. Now what you'll notice is that this opens up, and it's not just one line of code. It's got functions, like you see like if-else statements here. This is a variable. That's how they format variables, starting with a $sign. And it just goes on, and it ends here. So that's one section of PHP. Then you notice you got a line of HTML here, and right in the middle of the damn thing, there's PHP. right? So that's kind of cool that this is actually a PHP file, and it's HTML mixed with PHP, but when you visit the website, you will get spit out at you a purely HTML page. You will not see all of this code behind it. So let's look for this. So this is div content area. So if we actually go to the website and search for this, oh, it's right down here, right? So you don't see any PHP here. You see content that's being spit out using PHP. And what this is doing is, this is like each one of these posts. So all these videos, this guy's website is like people submit videos to the page and then they get posted, all about like politics and stuff. So you pay to post on the site. So these are all like different tests that I've done. And so you could see test post, subscription pack with payment, bullying, all this stuff. So if you actually look at the code, you can see, here's one of them, post by Jim Flannery. Here's the, the video embedding. There's the title, test post. Here's another one, H2. So you see how it repeats? It's like one after another, and it just goes on and on and on. So what's happening is that all that data is sitting in a database, and this PHP code is saying, like, if you have posts, while there are posts, start laying them out. And it says here, like, this is the article ID. So this is like each individual one, and then boom, it just spits out all this code in HTML format, right? So it's using PHP to pull from the database, and then it spits out at you an HTML file. So the visitor to the site, again, sees HTML, but there's PHP on the server spitting out all this information. So that's kind of a little bit of what PHP is. Again, I don't want to get into writing the code. I just want you to be able to look. Oh, then, see, here you go, get footer. So that's calling a function, get footer, which is pulling in from the database all the information that goes into the footer of the website. So that's a PHP file, again, HTML mixed with HTML mixed with PHP. It gets spit out to you, the visitor, as HTML. Now JavaScript is different. JavaScript actually runs in the website. So this is some JavaScript. Again, not going to get too into detail about what this is doing, but I'll tell you that like this section of it is taking a text box called post content, and it's hiding it, and it's replacing it with a video recorder. So that's all. And if you look at the website, that's this. So on this website, we used a plugin which would set it up so that where it says video URL, there used to be a box here for you to put in a link to a YouTube video. But we use JavaScript to pull out that box and plug in a video recording tool. So this actually runs in the browser. It's not like on the server and spits it out. This is actually running in the browser. And if I pull up the source code, so like this is the WordPress admin backend, right? So this is like a visual interface to play around with WordPress. But this is the actual source code to the site, right? So it's HTML, just like normal. You see somewhere in here it'll point to see there's a ton of CSS style sheets, and it even references some JavaScript files. So you could have your JavaScript be a separate file if you wanted, just like CSS, you could do that. Or you could put the JavaScript right in the page, which is what, you could do that with CSS, but for this instance, you could see right here. This is that JavaScript embedded right into this web page. So again, not going to get too into detail about how to write JavaScript. If you want to learn that stuff, go to Code Academy. But you should at least know this idea that JavaScript's running in your browser, PHP is outside of it. And I guess it could be useful to know that JavaScript's code could be stored in a separate file. You don't have to store it in the actual page. It's just like CSS, where you can put it in your page, but it's probably often convenient to put it in, especially if it's something you're reusing on a bunch of pages. It's more useful probably to put it in a separate file. But yeah, that's good enough. That's pretty short to the sweet. threw some stuff at you. That's JavaScript. And I'm not sure exactly what's going to come next. I think next I'll probably show you how to like get a domain name and get hosting. So that's next. Cool.